people won't be wearing masks, or at least many people won't be wearing masks unless they choose to, even in crowded places. Is that making you feel nervous because perhaps you've not been vaccinated for some reason? You've got a health condition, you're pregnant, that kind of thing. 0808 100 5100. I mean, this might change the calculation of people like a friend of mine, Barrett, who is pregnant and has weighed things up and rightly or wrongly has decided not to have the vaccine up until this point. But the calculation around the balance of risk might now change because you've got to go out in the world from the 19th where the virus will be more prevalent.
Yes, and Andrew, I would urge your friend to get immunized. The vaccines are safe, they protect, and you're carrying a new baby, and I don't want you to be ill. And when you are pregnant, your immunity is a little bit subdued. And whilst your immunity is subdued, I don't want you to catch the virus. So if I was your brotherly friend, I would say, please get yourself immunized. It is good for you and your baby.
The right thing. Okay. Let's talk about singing, because a lot of people are asking about this. Sally's one person who's been in touch to say, so singing at weddings will be allowed from the 19th, but what about choirs? Are choirs back on from the 19th? Do you know?
I get the feeling they are, and I'm really concerned. So I can ask our viewers to Google choir and COVID deaths, choir practice, COVID deaths, United States, something like that, words to that effect. And I just want to narrate a small incident where they were having choir practice in a church in a place. So it doesn't have to be church. And they all got COVID. They all did, all of them. Amazing. And a few of them died. So singing, loud voices, choir in an indoor, poorly ventilated place are at risk things. I don't want to be a gloom merchant. I do appreciate that if you are fully immunized, you secrete fewer virus particles. So if I was really going to have a choir, this is what I would do. I would say, checklist. Are you immunized? Are you fully immunized? I'm going to ask you all to be in a large hall, and we're going to have air filtration, and we're going to have a big flow of air, and then we will gingerly, quietly have a go at choir. But I need to have those mitigations in place as well, because yes, you can get infected with singing.
So what I'm getting from you there, which is, again, it's like a throwback to the sort of advice we used to give months ago, is yes, just because it might be allowed doesn't mean it's a good idea. And that's where you are on choirs. You're saying, not so much, please let us go to choir, more don't go to choir whether it's allowed or not.
I am, Andrew, because I'm very concerned, and I'm not making this up, because in the last year, we've seen all these incidents, the bus drivers, that's fact, the choir practice, and all those people who got infected and a few died, that's also fact and well recognized. So we've got to act on the real science as we now know it. And I would say, I would not be doing choir in an indoor place.
Ian in Shiplake says, please ask Barrett, how often can you wear an FFP2 mask? Do they need to be thrown away or cleaned after each use?
Yeah, again, a very good question. I'm really pleased somebody has asked it, because I failed to address that issue. So this is what I would do. You have, say, 5 or 6 of them, or maybe say 7. So one for each day of the week. And if you have that rotation, it's perfectly okay. So if you worn it today and left it aside for 2 or 3 days, any viruses, etc., on that will have desiccated, dried out, and died, and it will be perfectly okay. So wear it one day, leave it alone for 2 or 3 days, wear it again, and you'll be absolutely fine. If it then gets grimy and dirty and all that, dispose of it. I don't think washing it, etc., is a solution, because you will be altering the pores and the filtration mechanism. So you dispose of it. But otherwise, they're longer lasting, but do rotate it like I explained.
Okay. Pat in Maidenhead says, my husband is in remission from leukemia. We're both vaccinated, but we've read that the vaccine isn't absolutely guaranteed to be effective, which worries us. What can you say to Pat and her husband?
Yes, Pat, I wish your husband well. He's, made a recovery from leukemia, which is a pretty serious affliction. And so go easy, go careful. It's a little bit like I was giving the advice to Della. And I'm saying, don't become a hermit, but be careful with the company you keep and the places you visit, etc. This is a human to human transmission of infection. So as long as you keep your circle of humans small and tight and not very exuberant and party-esque, you'll be fine. But go careful and, of course, wear your good quality mask.
Roxy in Maidenhead says, my family is in a redless country. We haven't seen them for 2 years. We're planning to meet up in an amber country. Everyone involved is double vaccinated, but my dad has diabetes. I'm worried about him travelling. How can we minimise the risk in all of this?
Well, the first thing to do, Roxy, is you see, we label people diabetic and then say, ooh, issue. But what I want to say is if your diabetes is well managed and controlled, then the narrative is you're as good as normal because you're a diabetic, but it is a well-controlled diabetes. So one thing is your homework to make sure your diabetes has been well controlled, well managed. Second thing is the same advice that I gave to Della and to Pat, which is go careful, don't be exuberant with lots of people in crowded pubs. It's the crowded places that are at risk. So if you can just avoid those crowded places, and I hope you're going to some warm place, so you sit outside and it's fresh air, that is much safer than indoor crowded places.
So I'm taking from that, nightclubs are the one place, the one area of the economy that's been closed throughout this whole thing. They're allowed to open in a fortnight. I presume you think that's mad.
I think so, because I recall back to my nightclub days. It's dark, rightly so. It's dark and the music is loud. So when the music is loud and you want to be heard, you're going to talk in a louder voice. And if you're talking face to face, prolonged over 20 minutes with somebody in a louder voice, you're throwing out lots and lots of particles. You will get infected. Similarly, on a crowded dance floor, lots of people, lots of mingling, that is a recipe to get infected. So I would avoid such places. But similarly, I would avoid a crowded pub where everybody is exuberant watching the football, that sort of thing.
Okay. One more from Gibberishy on Twitter, who says, so now they're removing any requirement for common sense measures to control infection, but also any hope of tracing the outbreaks by the test and trace app. What could possibly go wrong? Again, we were just talking before you came on about the fact that the app seems to be going out of business, going out of fashion.
Well, the app never worked very well. But my plea to central government, Sajid Javid and others is you have been put on notice that locally we do this really well. You know that we do it really well. Now, please stop investing in centralized instruments to control this outbreak. You need to invest in local authorities, local Public Health England, local NHS, local GP services to manage these outbreaks, which we will inevitably get. It's guaranteed. So we need to bolster local teams to manage these situations locally. And I do it. I'm in charge in a certain local authority areas. And locally, we do a fantastic job compared to centrally.
Okay, and very final question just in from Suzanne. I just want you to say the name of the mask that you're recommending again.
FFP2.
Barrett, you're always brilliant. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
Barrett Pankania taking your